and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, dust them off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today is Tony Pasculi.
Hey, Tom.
Today we are talking about one of my favorites, John Scalzi's Redshirts.
All right. So why is this a favorite?
You know, this just tickles my fancy. And when I was a kid, I was a Trekkie, and that was back when we were called Trekkies.
Yeah.
And this just does such a fantastic job of parodying that. The prologue to this book, I just highlighted it and wrote the note, "Oh, what a prologue." And it is just so definitively a Star Trek episode and everything wrong with it. And the fact that you have a character who's trapped in the middle of it, recognizing the absurdity of it, and yet is powerless to stop himself. You know, they're on the planet Borjovia. Because there are Borjovian landworms.
Yes.
Who would have thought that there would be Borjovian landworms on Borjovia? And you can't use the pulse pistol, which is the weapon that they're carrying, because it summons all of them and drives them crazy. It's like everything that a Star Trek episode would have, the incredible lapses of logic, except for the fact the characters are self-aware of it or become self-aware of it.
This is one of those premises that either you're fully on board or you're fully not. So again, as you say, it's a bunch of people who discover. Well, actually, you haven't said this, but here's the premise. It's a bunch of people who discover that they are existing in a badly written TV show, and the ones who are not the main characters are doomed to certain death because they are red shirts, and everyone knows what happens to red shirts in Star Trek. Yep. They're cannon fodder. So that's a premise where you either go, woo, that sounds like a lot of fun, or that's a premise where you go, really? I don't know if I want to read a whole novel about that. I think this is your first Scalzi novel you ever read.
I think this is the first Scalzi I ever read.
And I think that makes a big difference how you approach this book. I think you came into this and said, Star Trek, it's fun, it's a great premise, I love it. Boom, you're on board. This is like my fourth or fifth Scalzi that I read. And for me, this initially was, oh, Lord, what are you doing, John? Stick to old man's war. This is ridiculous. And it really grated that he won a Hugo Award for this and not for old man's war.
Okay, I can. Yeah. That seems disproportionate. Yeah, Old Man's War certainly is a higher caliber of writing and storytelling.
Yeah. So that said, I do enjoy this book a lot. It's really fun, and it's about as good a job as you could do this with this premise. Yeah. In fact, I think it transcends its premise in a lot of ways. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it's set on the starship, the flagship of the not Federation, and they're out exploring strange new worlds, and periodically just weird stuff happens. And like I say, if they go on an away mission, if you're going with one of the flag officers, you're going to die. Someone's going to die. Yes. And the crew has pieced parts of this together.
Yes.
They understand that, they have a warning system in place so that if one of the command officers is approaching the science bay, they all hide.
Yes.
Except for whoever the new guy is.
Now, initially, they don't understand why this happens, except for one guy who hides in the tunnels.
Right.
He's figured out it's something called the narrative, which is the idea that they're on a show. Everyone else just has pieced it together statistically, and so they know to avoid this thing, but they don't understand what's really happening. Yeah. But this one guy does. Yeah.
And then Korinsky, Lieutenant Korinsky,
yeah,
who exists only to be bludgeoned and diseased, and he's threatened with death in every single episode, and yet next week he's back ready to go again.
Yes, yeah.
And it's hilarious. I mean, as our character, oh God, I don't remember his name. Our lead character's name.
Our main character's name?
Yeah,
me neither.
Andrew Dahl. Okay.
Andrew Dahl. Okay.
So Andrew Dahl is new on the ship, and as they're waiting to get on the ship, right, he makes a few acquaintances, a few friends, 4 or 5 of them, and they stick together through the novel. But their first day on the ship, they all figure out independently that there is something whack going on, and it's particularly the fascination with away missions. And Dahl is unique in that rather than just accepting this weird world and trying his best to survive it, he actually starts looking for reasons and solutions. So he's the only one of the group when they actually track Jenkins down. He's the one who figures out how to track Jenkins down.
Yes. That was great. I love his strategy for tracking Jenkins down. Yeah, that was super fun.
He's quite elaborate with it. Gets a friend from Federation headquarters, not Federation headquarters, to send him the blueprints, compares them to the blueprints on the ship, looks at what's missing and says, that's where he's hiding.
Yeah. Universal Union is the name of the Federation in this book.
Yeah. I'm just going to stick with not Federation just because it's fun, but yeah, the Universal Union. But he's the only one willing to believe.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say that Jenkins is right, but he says that Jenkins has the explanation that makes the most sense of anything they've been presented with so far.
Yeah. And it's a stretch. I mean, obviously, even despite the statistical evidence, you want to believe that you're a fictional character. And actually, it turns out, further twist, they're not fictional characters. They are real human beings whose lives are being twisted by a show that's being written somewhere else, somewhen else.
Unless the entire is a meta-narrative, right? So even the history, even the show in which the USS Intrepid or whatever Intrepid figures is part of the fiction.
Yes.
So they don't even know that the TV show in the past is a real thing, or if it's part of the fictional universe, the metafictional universe that it's nested in.
Well, in the base layer, they are people that exist in the year 2460 or something, but in their universe, Star Trek is a real thing that happened. And then sometime later, another show happened. I don't remember the name of the other show, which was a loose ripoff of Star Trek, like 50 years later or 100 years later. And they are getting somehow entangled in the narrative of this other show. Yeah, so it's not Star Trek. It's basically a Star Trek reboot with, it's off-brand Star Trek. And that's significant. It has to, because if they were just there's a movie Stranger Than Fiction. Have you seen that?
Yep.
Okay. If they were just fictional characters, they'd kind of be stuck. What are you going to do? But they're not. They're real people, and they managed to travel back and meet the show's creators and convince them to stop killing people, which is fascinating.
And to wind the show down.
Yeah.
But once they accept that this is the way things are, they weaponize. I used that in the last episode too,
Yes.
but they weaponize the narrative against itself. They kidnap Kerensky so that they can do the absurdity of flying into a black hole to time travel.
Because Kerensky can't die.
Because Kerensky can't die, and he makes the physics, the alternate physics, work.
Yes.
Because the narrative bends the universe around it. I love that.
Yeah.
Poor Kerensky, who's got no clue what's going on.
So now that's all fun, and Scalzi does a really good job of giving you all kinds of absurd stuff. It's everything you could want in a parody like this. He hits all the beats you would expect to hit. But then the place where it gets interesting for me is how he rises above that. So one of the things they do, the producer of this show, his son has been in an automobile or a motorcycle accident and is basically expected not to recover. And he had a bit part on this show. And they managed to save this kid's life. And it's because they managed to save this kid's life that the producer agrees to, well, that's part of the reason he agrees to stop writing the show so they can go on to live normal, unnarrative controlled lives. And Scalzi, I think, does an amazing job of making this plausible in this context. Traveling through the black hole means your atoms are entangled, and they can only exist in two places at two different places at the same time for 5 days before they will evaporate.
Days,
But if they take this kid's body back to the future, they can repair him because they have the technology. It's like thousands of years in the future. And if they leave the other guy behind, then somehow their atoms will switch places and it'll all work out, and the kid will be back with his dad and he'll be healthy again, and the other guy will be back where he's supposed to be, and so it's kind of amazing.
Yep. And then I love the codas on this.
The codas are my favorite part.
Because you easily could have stopped the book at the point where it becomes meta.
Yeah.
And then chop it off there. But the codas take us back to these assorted realities and show us what happens next. We get to see what happens next with the kid who was in a coma, being brought back effectively to life.
Yeah.
We get to see what happens with Jensen's wife, not Jensen's wife, but
the woman that Jensen's wife was based on.
yeah,
Yes.
the actress.
I love that. That to me evokes the relationship between John Perry and Jane Sagan in Old Man's War. I don't know if you remember. You read Old Man's War,
Yeah,
right?
it's been a while. I've only read it once.
So in that one, there's this guy and his wife dies before they sign up and they get new bodies, but his wife dies first. But then because she had already collected her DNA, she becomes a member of the Ghost Brigade, where they wipe out the brain and just use her DNA to create a body from scratch, and it's part of the Special Forces. But she looks just like this guy's wife. And when he says, "Hey, aren't you my wife?" she gets threatened by that and beats the shit out of him. But then she gets curious because none of the Special Forces people have actual memories they've never had a childhood. They are still children. And the one thing they really want is some sort of connection. And he says, "Well, yeah, I knew a woman who looked just like you." And so he basically tells her about his wife, and she gets very attached to this idea of this person that she is sort of related to, but is not her. And they eventually become a couple. That's a very sweet subplot to that whole thing. And there's something similar here with this Coda. Yeah. Is it Coda 2 or Coda 3? I forget.
I think it's Coda 2.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so Jenkins sends a collection of memorabilia of his wife back in time.
Yes.
And Dahl delivers it to the actress.
Yeah.
And she copies it because it's only going to exist for a couple more days because of time travel.
Yeah.
But she studies it and then decides, well, we're not privy to her inner thoughts, but she symbolically prints out a bunch of photographs and texts and whatnot and burns them and then takes and scatters the ashes in the ocean to give that memory a bad thing, a rest, and happens to do it as the character on whom Jenkins was based is walking by, thus introducing herself to the man that in the fictional story is her husband. So that was kind of sweet.
But I love this idea of, she's not this character, but she is the inspiration for this character. And there is someone who loves the person that she is the inspiration for. And so Jenkins thinks that she will appreciate getting to know this person that she inspired, who is the love of his life. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really heart-melting moment. I really like it.
Yep.
Yeah. So Scalzi, I kind of think of his style as glib with heart. And I think the heart is important because if it was just glib, it would be completely disposable. If this, for me, I don't know, you might have enjoyed it anyway if it was just the parody. If it was just the parody, I would not return to this. I would go, okay, that's interesting. Somebody had to write that book. He did. Congratulations. I would never pick it up again. But I have read this book 3 times. And it's because of the Coda. It's because of Jenkins and his wife. It's because of the producer's son. I'm less concerned about Dahl saving his life. I'm more concerned about these other much more human stories that sort of happen through this that are not part of the parody at all. This is just Scalzi just putting this in there because that's who Scalzi is. Yeah.
Yep. It's life happening despite being trapped in that parody.
Yes.
Life will find a way.
Life finds a way, yes. So I'm curious, what other Scalzi have you read?
I did the Old Man's War, I think the first 3 books in that. The Kaiju Preservation Society.
That one feels like this one to me.
Yeah.
But with less heart. Yeah.
And then there was something about a cat and supervillains.
Starter villain.
And that, I think... You actually cautioned me about this. Yeah, there wasn't much to that one. It was just a lot of witty repartee.
It was
very little
pure
plot.
glib.
Pure glib, no heart.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm missing something.
There's one we did for the podcast. Is one of my first picks was Agent to the Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's his first novel, and I think it's one of his absolute best. And I think it was interesting for me watching his career. As he went into the Old Man's series, he started playing with different styles and sort of pushing himself as an author, trying different things. And then he kind of hit a stride as a very successful guy who could bang out funny books. And now he's that. He's just like starter villain. He's got his latest book is about the moon turning to cheese. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, okay. And he somehow got a whole book out of that, but just like, yeah, Yeah.
Well, it's just the life of a New York Times bestselling author, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, regardless, I enjoy this immensely. And I always, when I get to the very end of it, I just wish for more. I mean, the codas are delightful, and they give us punctuation to it. But the book ends, Dahl thinks he's dead in the season finale in which they're going to bring this guy, producer's kid back to life. Yeah. And then he comes out and he has this conversation with one of the other characters in which he identifies, I'm the protagonist of this other story.
Of the meta-narrative, yes.
Yeah, the meta-narrative. And the only reason you can be here is to tell me that I've got it right. Yeah. So what's that meta-narrative? Is that actually the book we're holding in our hands? Is that character actually a representative of Scalzi himself inserting into the novel? Or is there actually another tier going on here and we're waiting breathlessly for the sequel?
I don't think there's going to be a sequel to this one.
No, it can't be a sequel to this. But I can see that structurally.
Yeah. So the codas were not conceived as part of the story. He wrote the story. It was as long as it had to be. He turned it in, and then his publisher said, "That's kind of short." And he said, okay, I'll write some extra stuff for you. And that's where the codas came from.
Well, I'm glad the publisher said what they said.
Yeah, me too, because I do like the codas a lot. All right, anything else on this one?
Oh, I don't know. This is, I just think, a fantastic fun read. If you like old sci-fi and you enjoy Star Trek, despite the fact that it's logically inconsistent internally and makes just physics go away, particularly the original series, you should totally pick this book up.
Oh, here's a question. How does this compare to Galaxy Quest for you? I assume you're familiar with Galaxy Quest.
I do love Galaxy Quest, but Galaxy Quest is a straight-up redemption story inside a parody. Yeah. It's much simpler structurally than this, and it is just a straight-up comedy, whereas this actually has more to it. That's not the compare. It's not one of them is a breakfast cereal and the other one is not filet mignon, but it's definitely something of a higher tier.
I think they both do a similar thing, and they both start as straightforward parodies, and they both elevate their parody to something more successful than that. I think Galaxy Quest has a lot of heart. Also, I would call Galaxy Quest my favorite Star Trek movie.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. And it's not as complex as this. It doesn't have as much richness and texture as this. But of course, it's a movie, so a lot of that gets stripped away anyway. Yep. Galaxy Quest is just wonderful. So if you like Galaxy Quest, you will probably also like this. Yep. Yeah. So.
Well, this actually came to me from my wife.
Really?
Which is not a way literature often gets to me. You have very disparate reading tastes. But
I don't think of her as a science fiction fan, is she?
It's not what she normally picks up.
Okay. So how did she pick this up?
I don't know. Someone recommended it to her, and she read it, and she thought I would really enjoy it. And
she
was my introduction to Scalzi. Yep.
Nice.
So what's next?
We're doing one of my favorite novels, a one-hit wonder from a man named Carl Sagan, his only science fiction novel, Contact.
It has been forever since I read this. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
All right.
See you in 2 weeks.